You've mentioned a lot of mental performance techniques throughout this. You've talked about, being at peace with your game, winners and learners, falling in love with the process. You mentioned ABCs. You mentioned having a daily routine. You talked about visualization and imagery and meditation and controlling the things that you can control and surrounding yourself with people that are going to push you like iron sharpens iron. If you had to say to a basketball coach or a basketball player, let's say high school, college, that are listening to this, and they were to say, Marcus, tell me about just 1, 2, maybe 3 of the most important mental performance things that you do that they could do, what would those things be?
I think for one, I think it's taking the time to breathe. We talk, one of the things I've learned from you have stuck with me to now is if you're able to control your breathing, you're going to be able to control your actions no matter what the situation is, whether you're fatigued, whether it's chaotic. If you can control your breathing, you could control the outcome, I feel like. And so for me, being able to control your breath and your breathing in moments of chaos is extremely important. For us being basketball players and the experiences I've had playing at Marquette, there'd be a lot of games where high intensity, high pressure, lots of stress, but leaning on the fact that if I'm able to control my breathing in any situation, I'm able to control what I can control. And I think that's extremely important for anybody in a stressful situation. To be able to have something to go to as a breathing technique, as you have taught me, as you have taught so many, to take that time to really maximize the breathing, because the more you breathe and the more you control your breathing, the more your mind's going to be in tune with that moment. So I think that's extremely important. And that's been a great thing for me from the mental side. Kind of something I do physically, and I talked about with LMU on the past meeting I had with them. Physically, I wanted to do something that would always bring me back into the right frame of mind. For you, it was check in, all in. A coach or someone in authority says check in, and everyone else says all in, just to know that they're in the present moment, in that moment, right in time. So for me, like if something was going good or bad, I didn't want to think about that moment for longer than a second or two, because a game of basketball is about a game of possessions, a game of runs. You never want to get caught up too much on one play or one moment. So for me, what I would do, anything that happened, I make a shot, I miss a shot, I have a turnover, I get a foul, I don't agree with the ref's call. Anything I would do, right in the instant it happened, I would snap to myself. I would snap, like literally physically snap. Like in a game, I would shoot a 3, make a 3, snap and get back on defense, because I didn't want to be caught up in that moment, because I feel if you're thinking about something from the past, you're not going to be able to be in the present moment and affect what's happening now. We talk about in the mental game always being in the now, always being in the present moment. And I think if we think too much on those past moments or past experiences, we're not going to be in the present moment and we're not going to be able to be effective. And so for me, something I would do personally to get me locked into the moment was snap. So that was a big thing for me. And then lastly, I never knew anything about meditation. I never knew anything like that. I always thought praying was like meditation, but I think being able to meditate and have an audio that you'd give me, it's crazy because I still use that now. I still have that, linked to my Google Drive. Brian being able to talk to me through a phone, talking about what I need to do from a mental standpoint to get myself ready for the day or get myself ready for training or a game. I think it's extremely important. Taking time to meditate and be in your own thoughts and clear your mind and be at peace is extremely important. That's something that, I definitely didn't have going into college or even before that. And it's something that I've taken with me now and I'm going to take with me throughout my career, because it's extremely important to take care of your mental side of the game. Because I think, honestly, at this stage, especially going into a professional career, everyone's going to be talented. But what sets people apart is their mental preparation and being able to think ahead and being able to be in the mind and head space to be effective and use their mind. And if your mind's at peace and your mind is clear, you're going to be able to be more effective than not.
Man, you so much good there. So much good. In terms of as you continue to progress, like when you went from high school to private school to Marquette now into professional ranks, every level you go up, the physical talent continues to get better. Everyone has it. So the higher you go, the less physical ability is a factor because everybody has it. It's about who can be the most consistent. It's about who can show up and have the best lifestyle at being a champion. Who's the one that can show up the most prepared? Who's the one that can show up and stay present? Because as the competition gets better, there's more adversity you have to deal with because everyone's a little bit faster, everyone's a little bit better. And you just shared a lot of tools that people can use, talking about the breath, talking about being able to snap and clear. And it's on another episode of this podcast, we had Justin Lawler, who plays defense for the LA Rams, and we had Cortland Sutton, who was an all-pro wide receiver with the Denver Broncos. I had both of those guys like you in college when they were playing at SMU. And they both also talked about in football, clap and clear as their way to release a red light or a yellow light and get back to that next play. And the difference between football and basketball is in football, when the guy gets tackled, the whistle blows, you got like 20 seconds to get back to the line of scrimmage and get lined up. So you have a little bit more time, like a baseball player stepping out of the batter's box, bat under the arm, undoing their batting gloves. They have more time than you do as a basketball player. So your trigger or your anchor to release and get back to the next play was a snap. And is that something that you had to practice, or is that, and you kind of were like, okay, I'll try this, and it kind of started to work for you over time, or was it something that you've kind of been doing just naturally since you were a kid?
No, it definitely wasn't natural. And I think for anybody in any kind of sport, it's different. I think the pace of the game and how the game's played definitely plays a factor to how you utilize physical cues for snapping back into it. For me, basketball is so quick and so fast paced that snapping just worked. For football players, it could clap because you have more time. Baseball players, they have more of a routine when they're batting or in the outfield or things like that. So I think it differs for everybody. But for me, it was actually something I just picked up when I was working out on my own. If I would get frustrated, I would snap and I would get like pissed. And so I think for me, kind of really taking the time to be intentional with wanting to have my own kind of cue to get locked back in, because we always did check in and all in as a team, but I want something for me personally that I could kind of go to always. And snapping was just something that really resonated with me. So even when I work out and I'm, missing shots or not necessarily being as sharp as I want to, I snap and I get back in that frame of mind and it just locks me in.
Okay.
It's like I had about 12 cups of coffee and I'm just like zoned in. That's kind of my thing. And it's something I picked up, and it's something that wasn't natural, like I mentioned, but, as I started to practice it more, I would really, really intentionally put it into practice or working out or a game, so if I was doing extra work, and I would really use that time to practice this type of strategy to get me locked back in if I was messing up. So it was definitely something I learned, and you had a big part to do with that, because I wanted to do something personally for me to keep me in a great space in terms of my mindset, but also just to keep me sharp and have an edge on the court.